Hello everyone, I am Anisofia binti Abdul Aziz, student ID number 2020-488864 from group BIO150 2G3. So for today's video, I will share with you guys about my biology case study. Chicago Cyanide Murders. But before that, let's see what is cellular respiration. Cellular respiration is one of the elegant, majestic, and fascinating metabolic pathways on Earth. Cellular respiration, defined as a complex process in which food molecules or organic molecules are broken down to harvest chemical energy, which is then stored in the chemical bonds of adenosine triphosphate ATP. ATP is a high-energy molecule that stores and transports energy within cells. ATP is the cell's energy shuttle, which is a nucleotide with unstable phosphate bonds that the cell hydrolyzes for energy. ATP is known as energy carrier or universal energy carrier. ATP powers cellular work by coupling exogenic reactions. When the ATP is hydrolyzed, the energy of ATP is released. There are two types of respiration, which are anaerobic and aerobic. Anaerobic respiration does not use oxygen. Anaerobic respiration produces yeast and lactate to keep muscles moving. Lactate build up and lack of oxygen are the reason for muscles moving. Both aerobic and anaerobic respiration starts with the process of glycolysis, which literally means sugar splitting. Break a sugar molecule broken down through glycolysis. In the process of glycolysis, 2 ATP molecules are consumed and 4 are produced. This results in a net gain of 2 ATP molecules produced for every sugar molecule broken down by glycolysis. In cells that use oxygen, a sugar molecule of pyruvate. In cells that do not have oxygen, the sugar molecule is broken down into forms such as lactate. Glycolysis occurs in the cytoplasm and has 2 major phases, which energy investment phase and energy payoff phase. Glycolysis also occurs whether or not oxygen is present. The equation for glycolysis is: cyanide is a quickly acting possible fatal chemical that can subsist in numerous forms. It can be a colorless gas such as hydrogen cyanide HCN or crystal forms such as sodium cyanide NaCN. Cyanide has a bitter almond smell, but it seldomly gives off a scent, and not everyone can distinguish this scent. Cyanide can be found in some foods and in certain plants such as cassava, lima beans, and almonds. The edible parts of these plants contain low amounts of cyanide. Cyanide also contained in cigarette, smoke, and combustion products of synthetic materials like plastics. Cyanide is used in manufacturing to make paper, textiles, and plastics. Cyanide is a poisonous. Therefore, it can be used as a poison or chemical warfare agent, yet majority people are exposed to it unintendedly. There are some ways to be exposed to cyanide, which are eating cassava, lima beans, yucca bamboo shoots, sorghum or almonds, eating apple seeds, cherry stones, apricot pits or peach pits, smoking cigarettes, burning plastic or coal, inhaling smoke from a house fire, and breathing air, drinking water, eating food, or touching soil that contains cyanide. There are symptoms of cyanide poisoning such as headache, dizziness, weakness, confusion, fatigue, and lack of coordination. Symptoms from larger doses or longer exposure are different, which are low blood pressure, unconsciousness, convulsions, slow heart rate, lung damage, respiratory failure, and coma. The type of respiration that oxygen is represents known as aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration is respiration using electron acceptor other than molecular oxygen. After passing through the electron transport chain, low-energy electrons and low-energy hydrogen ions combine with oxygen to form water. Thus, oxygen's role is to drive the entire set of ATPs, producing reactions within the mitochondrion by accepting hydrogen. Oxygen is the final electron acceptor. No part of the process, from the Krebs cycle through electron transport chain, can happen without oxygen. Aerobic respiration is complete, If oxygen is available, cellular respiration transfers the energy from 1 molecule of glucose to 30 or 32 molecules of ATP, releasing carbon dioxide and water as waste. Glucose has become energy which can be used for work within the cell, transport within the cell, pumping ions and molecules across membranes, and building large organic molecules. As it turns out, the reason we need oxygen is so our cells can use this molecule during oxidative phosphorylation, the final stage of cellular respiration in the electron transport chain ETC. Electrons are passed from one molecule to another, and energy released in these electron transfers is used to form an electrochemical gradient. In chemiosmosis, the energy stored in the gradient is used to make ATP. Therefore, when no oxygen is present, the electron transport chain can't run because there is no oxygen to act as the final electron acceptor. This means that the ETC will not be accepting electrons from NADH as its source of power, so NAD+ ions will not be regenerated. Both glycolysis and the citric acid cycle require NAD+ ions to accept electrons during the chemical reactions. In order for the cell to continue to generate any ATP, NADH must be converted back to NAD+ ions to use as an electron carrier. Cyanide acts very fast as it is a very small molecule that can spread rapidly through the body. Cyanide disrupts electron transport chain by binding to cytochrome C and acts as an irreversible enzyme inhibitor that preventing cytochrome C oxidase to transport electrons to oxygen in the electron transport chain. Without oxygen, mitochondria cannot produce energy, ATP. As a result, all cells expend their energy and die, and the most important organ, which is heart muscle, cannot pump blood that contains oxygen to the organs and tissue of the body. Based on what I know about cyanide poisoning, it is a condition which is growing if you inhale, touch or ingest cyanide. It is a poisonous chemical gas that can prevent your body from absorbing oxygen. Cyanide poisoning can be found in factories that has been used to make plastics, jewelry and paper, smoke from cigarette or exhaust from a car, and in the sale, whether in naturally or from industrial processes. There are a few cyanide poisoning symptoms such as headache, seizures, vomiting, chest pain, anxiety, and so on. Cyanide is an inhibitor of multiple enzymes, including cytochrome C. At the end of the electron transport chain, cytochrome C is in charge of passing the electrons and free hydrogen ions to oxygen molecules. Cyanide directly inhibits cytochrome C and stops the regular transfer of electrons and free hydrogen ions to oxygen, thus stop both oxidative phosphorylation and cellular metabolism. Eventually, the accumulation of free hydrogen ions causes acidemia, abnormal acidity of the blood, because cellular metabolism changes from aerobic respiration to anaerobic respiration, resulting to increased production of lactic acid. The consequences are serious metabolic acidosis, seriously damaged glucose and oxygen consumption, and hypoxic, a condition which occurs when dissolved oxygen concentration are less than 2 mg per liter. I think that giving a person oxygen would not be an effective treatment as the cells are not lacking oxygen. After exposure to cyanide poison, cyanide enters the bloodstream faster. A little amount of cyanide handles by the body differently than big amount. In little doses, cyanide in the body then can be changed into thiocyanide, which is less dangerous. It can also bond with another chemical to form vitamin that called vitamin B12 that function as the helper to keep healthy nerve and red blood cells. However, a large dose of cyanide in the body's ability to change cyanide into thiocyanide is overwhelmed. The cyanide binds permanently with the enzyme by covalent bonds. The cyanide avoids the cells of the body from using oxygen. Cyanide will inhibit the enzyme cytochrome oxidase, which can be found in the electron transport chain that used in respiration. If this occurs, the cell will die. As the conclusion, cyanide are lethal chemicals that can cause death. Even though it is dangerous, cyanide is an important industrial chemical. Cyanide poisoning are something that we should take it as a serious matter because it can cause death. Cyanide poisoning victims do not have lack of oxygen, but instead they have sufficient amount of oxygen in the body. It is just they could not use it because the cyanide blocks the cells from using the oxygen.